Welcome to the latest addition to the Compliance Podcast Network, the podcast 10 for 10, which brings you the week's top 10 compliance stories curated together in one podcast each week. Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, brings you the compliance professional stories you need to be aware of at the end of your busy week. Sit back and in 10 minutes, hear about the stories every compliance professional should be aware of. Every Saturday, 10 for 10 highlights the most important news, insights, and analysis for the compliance professional, all curated by the voice of compliance, Tom Fox. Get your weekly filling of compliance stories with 10 for 10. Hosted by Tom Fox. 10 for 10 is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network. First, a word from the sponsor of the Compliance Podcast Network for this month, Ethico.
In the intricate world of ethics and compliance, each second is precious, and slow case closures are more than just delays, they're missed opportunities. Enter Ethico. Our solution revolutionizes case management, cutting closure times in half and turning every challenge into a chance for improvement. Imagine a workspace where efficiency and compliance coexist harmoniously. Don't just dream of faster resolutions, make it your reality. Visit ethico.com/CPN today to book a demo and dive into our exclusive white paper by Tom Fox, the ROI of compliance, and to try our free ROI calculator. Empower your team with the tools they deserve.
Welcome to 10 for 10 for the week ending June 1, 2024. Yes, it's the first week of June. Our first story comes to us from Politico, and it is about the trial of Senator Robert Menendez. The prosecution has unleashed a cache of text, emails, and other communications in the bribery case against Senator Menendez. He claims that it was really all his wife's fault because she was such a greedy woman. Imagine that as a defense going home every night. Next up, from the Financial Times, an interesting article about the potential reputational damage that a company can sustain by sponsoring the Olympics. Toyota has spent almost $835 million since 2017 as the one of the lead top-tier sponsors for the Olympics. And it appears that Toyota will not renew its contract because of the what the Olympics have done, the consumption of content, how young people are not watching the Olympics the way people did in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. So, and of course, controversies which would occur at the Olympics. So, very interesting development in one of the world's signature sports events. Next up, in an incredibly disturbing story from the Washington Post, the federal government fined Arthur Grand Technologies Company, a firm that provides information technology services, for a March 2023 job posted advertisement for a business analyst position that required only U.S.-born white citizens who were located within 60 miles of Dallas, Texas. Now, I understand racism in Texas is quite the thing, and the lily white Republican Party certainly wouldn't want to keep things that way. But here we have a clear violation of the Civil Rights Act, and the company, why would you ever want to work for a company that's that invidious? Next up, Boeing is in the news as it has finally provided the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, a written plan to improve the quality and safety to address systemic issues that have damaged the company's reputation and put Boeing at the center of several federal investigations. It detailed these steps during a 3-hour meeting with literally the administrator of the FAA, where the company submitted a comprehensive action plan that the regulator had ordered back in February. The FAA had given Boeing some 90 days to get the plan together. It's not clear what effect, if any, this will have on the violation of the deferred prosecution agreement and potential criminal penalties from the Justice Department, but at least it's a first step. Along the lines of the whites-only imbroglio in Texas, American Airlines is being sued for throwing off a plane 3 black men on a flight from Phoenix to New York. And the complaint, actually it was 5 black men who were removed from a flight after a white flight attendant complained about a passenger with, quote, offensive body odor, end quote. Of course, none of the black men could be identified as having said offensive body odor. But once again, you have a clear civil rights violation of throwing off 5 people, not even the one who had offensive body odor. American Airlines says this did not reflect the values of the company, but, the flight attendant certainly did it. So now there's a suit in federal court over it. In our second story today from the Financial Times, in an op-ed piece, the FT editorial board asked for some better accounting services in the United Kingdom. And they wrote that professional judgment is a critical feature of any audit. But of course, in the United Kingdom, firms are falling short. A report noted auditors failed to sound the alarm before 75% of big UK collapses between 2010 and 2022. Now, auditors say, of course, it's not our fault. We weren't supposed to look for that. But you wonder what on earth they would be looking for. Fraud, material uncertainty, anything that might indicate something is askance. But in the UK, apparently not. Our next story comes to us from the Nigerian Lawyer, first-time contributor, which reports that 2 members of Congress are urging the Department of Justice to reopen an investigation into the Shell E&I allegations of corruption over a lucrative deal for Nigerian oil bloc OPL 245. This is something that's been investigated thoroughly, and it's clear that bribes were paid. What is unclear is whether the bribes were paid directly by Shell and E&I. They were paid to someone else who made the bribes paid, but reportedly over $50 million in bribes was distributed. From the Wall Street Journal, Risk and Compliance Journal, Mingy Sun tells us that some of Wall Street's biggest private equity firms say they're negotiating settlements with the SEC over their employees' use of banned communication channels. Blackstone, TPG, and Carlyle disclosed in quarterly filings they've been cooperating with the SEC about record-keeping investigations and are looking at potential fines, penalties, and/or solutions. So yet another sweep of instant messagings from companies. Next up from Law 360, it's a continuing report on the trial of Mike Lynch, the former founder of Autonomy, around its sale to HP. On the witness stand, I think Lynch has frankly devastated the prosecution, but he testified that he did not con HP into doing anything, and that it's actually the HP board who took steps to destroy the deal after it had been signed. The first step, of course, was firing the CEO in charge at the time, Leo Apicather, who championed the deal. And without him to push forward the deal, no one in HP would step forward. From the South China Morning Post, if you want to deal with corruption, well, how about the death penalty? Well, China hands out a rare death penalty sentence to a former senior banker for taking $151 million in bribes. Former manager Bao Tiawei is the second China Hurong official to receive the death penalty. His boss was executed back in 2021. So the death penalty is in play. I hope you have a great weekend, and we look forward to visiting with you next weekend. As I mentioned at the start of this podcast, this month's sponsor for the entire Compliance Podcast Network is Ethico. Have you ever wondered how to show the ROI of your compliance program? Have you struggled with the budgeting process, getting the funds you want for your compliance program? Well, I've partnered with Ethico to put together a white paper on the ROI of compliance, which shows you not only how to demonstrate ROI, but also how to speak finance when you're sitting across from the CFO with your budget proposals. Check out the website and get the white paper. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of 10 for 10. I hope you'll check out the newest podcast in the Compliance Podcast Network, the Compliance Tip of the Day. In Compliance Tip of the Day, I give a 5 to 8 minute summary of one tip that you can integrate into your compliance program or put together for greater compliance program efficiency.